Assalamu alaikum everyone. We're here today for the SABLAH session and we're going to be discussing about AI and the legal teams that are here today. We have Ramz, Musab, Rasha and Iris with us. We would like to start with a very simple question so that we can start the discussion, obviously. And the question to all of you is, what's one legal blind spot you've encountered in your region or teams when it comes to AI?
I like that question.
I think the major one, we can say lack of regulations.
Okay.
So we have a lot to care about it. For example, privacy, confidentiality, IB. So we need to have established regulations for AI. So then we can go with it. Yeah.
When do you think we would have regulations?
I think some jurisdiction, they already started to establish their own regulations, like not regulations, but I can say frameworks. But in our jurisdictions, so far, we only have policies on how to deal with it.
Yeah.
So I think we need to learn from their experience and reflect that in our jurisdictions.
True.
Iris, you were telling us about how the Netherlands is currently working around AI and the regulations that are being introduced. Can you tell us more about that?
Sure, yeah, I'd be happy to. So in the Netherlands, with Petrogas, we've started working with AI slightly, but we are aware that the regulatory framework is still very much in flux. It's changing. It's not quite there yet. So as a company, what we're trying to do is urge caution to the people working with AI. Be careful when you upload documents, be careful with confidential information, but also be very careful with the data that comes out of the AI. And I think that's, as a company, how we are trying to deal with this gap in laws and regulations at the moment, just to give our own guidelines to our people on how to stay safe when using AI and to also protect the company's interests.
From a security perspective, how do you monitor who's uploading what onto AI tools? I mean, this question is for all of you, obviously, if any of you are using AI tools. How do you monitor that bit? Because you can give as much instructions and have as much policies within your organization, but then how do you actually monitor that?
I think with some organizations, they actually block AI tools online.
Yeah.
For instance, I know of companies that block ChatGPT.
Yeah.
Other companies, you could say, well, you can download the app, so it's local, and you can use the app on your browser locally, but you can't use it externally. For instance, like with Copilot, that's also a sort of AI tool, and that can be work or web. Yeah. And then you can disable the web option. So there are options to do that, but I think it really is with the IT security teams on how they actually monitor compliance with any rules or guidelines put down by legal, by the management, by IT themselves.
Yeah, and it's true. As much as you have regulations or policies within the company to monitor, I think it's very important to have a specific way of actually monitoring how people are uploading this stuff, because we as legal could try and have as much policies as we want, but unless there's an executive department that carries out such monitoring, it will be hard. And at the moment, I think we're doing a lot of awareness, especially I know that cybersecurity, you guys are working a lot. I see the emails on trying to aware people on the dangers of AI, on trying to never share any documents, any confidential information with the AI tools. Yes, it would be very hard to restrict people from using it altogether. But I think people need to start having the awareness of, yes, you can use it, but it goes up to a certain limit. You cannot share the company's confidential information to such platforms.
Yeah, I think also maybe if you hold employees or the users accountable, if anything were to go wrong, if they would leak data, especially if it's coming down to like confidential data and so on, if you inform them that, okay, we are going to hold you liable for any of this, then maybe I think they would refrain from, uploading just anything and everything. Yeah. When it comes to the regulations, what's one thing do you think regulators are getting right and or wrong?
When it comes...
I think one big point that regulators are looking forward to implement, which is a big point, a valid point, is that the protection of the information that is uploaded by the users. Because how comfortable are we as organizations or even as individuals in our private matters? How comfortable are we in uploading or sharing private information or even confidential information? Because we know by default it's going to be used to train that LLM. So there should be some kind of a protection or limitations for that by default, by law, not by contractual agreements.
Yeah, by law.
Because individuals don't know these things. They will not read the contract.
Yeah.
So it should be by default.
Yeah. Iris, you were mentioning, you said that sometimes you upload contracts on the AI tool. How does that work? How do you limit what information
is included in the contract?
Yeah.
Well, I think you make a very specific selection of which contracts can be uploaded and which contracts can't be uploaded. I, for instance, think simple to digest contracts are easier for the AI, but you also really have to look at the information in the contract. Is it sensitive? Is it, for instance, confidential? Do I need to redact certain items? When it comes, for instance, to an NDA, if you black out the permitted purpose and you black out the party names and you upload that, then it's just an NDA template, really. And then you can check that and ask it to compare to your own NDA template and ask it to make a table of comparison. That can work. But I would be very careful, just also because of the position that I have as a legal counsel, to upload fully detailed contracts that contain the confidential information themselves.
Okay, so it's more of, so when you upload these documents, it's more of not the actual stuff you fill out, but more of the structure,
the framework,
and exactly. Okay, that's interesting. And do you think our current laws are equipped to handle new technologies, or I'd say more advanced levels of AI? Or do you think we'll be able to keep up? Because, okay, now you're, like you said, the Netherlands or the EU is establishing or have already established laws and regulations. We, as of Oman, haven't yet. And AI is already rapidly growing in terms of its technology. So do you think that we'd be able to keep up, so the law and the technology?
To me, I think it's very hard for the law to fully catch up with the technology, just because AI is something that is changing rapidly. We're talking within 24 hours, something new is happening. But I think this comes a lot with the same concept as every other concept in law, but having like a general regulation that covers a lot of aspects should be enough. And then we always give the executives like and allowing them a part to regulate and to change and amend accordingly, such as ministries, authorities, and so on and so forth. I think this way we will be able to cover at least and make sure that the law is keeping up with the constant changes in AI. But as of today, I think there's a lot that needs to be changed. There's a lot that needs to be introduced, especially in our region. I know, as I was talking to Iris, that the EU is currently looking into a new regulation. But here in the Middle East, we're hoping for it. We're looking forward to seeing how the world is going to respond to such changes in AI, especially the legal world.
And so coming from two different countries, do you feel like our laws and regulations would differ from their laws and regulations? And why do you think that they would be different if they were to be different?
I don't think they're necessarily going to be very different, just because we typically adapt a lot when it comes to the data privacy and matters such as the GDPR from the UE. We do adapt it into our jurisdictions, or you'll see some elements of it. So it's not necessarily going to be different, but we always have to customize it to our laws, our regulations, just to make them not be of a conflict. But I don't necessarily think they're going to be entirely different. The elements of difference is just normal.
Musab and Rasha, do you agree with?
I totally agree with her. And we usually, in laws and regulations, we took the principles from international and international regulations from standards. So we built on that standard. Usually we took the concept and we design it to fit our jurisdiction, either here in Oman or Arab countries. So yeah, I agree with her.
Also because the core issues of AI are universally the same, either in Oman or elsewhere.
Yeah.
Some problems that we have discussed prior to this, to our setting here, is that, for example, who bears the liability in case the AI does something wrong?
Yeah.
Is it the user of the AI? Is it the company that's developing the AI? So these things to be regulated, even the intellectual property of the generative AI's product itself. These things, if they are ever regulated, it will be the same universally.
Yeah.
Yeah. So not much difference in these regards.
Yeah. As you said, I think it's going to be a standard that the world will have to follow. The little details will definitely have to be customized for every jurisdiction, but the standard will typically be something similar.
So then if we're going to be talking about working as a team, so let's say you guys here are sitting and you're all from different organizations and different geographical locations, so that means that's not going to cause an issue when, let's say, you're discussing topics of AI and regulations, and so it would be very similar to one another.
It will be somehow unified. I think us as a group, if we're talking about adapting such regulations into our contract, we would typically go for the highest standard.
Yeah.
So whether that's going to be the European standard or the American or whatever, or the English, then we will typically adapt the highest standard into all our contracts as a group. And that's how we do it.
Okay. And then I do have a question here. So if you were to define, let's say, critical or confidential information, would you say that in Oman, critical or confidential information is defined the same way as it would be defined in the Netherlands, let's say?
I think critical and confidential information just depend on what topic you're talking about. So for instance, a company name could be not confidential because it's public. But if we're talking about a specific thing about that company name, like an IP that is not yet registered, then we're talking it's confidential. So it's not necessarily about the jurisdiction difference in how we frame it. It's about seeing it in total in the context of the matter. Then you'll be able to decide, yes, that stands as a confidential information. And we can always define what a confidential information in our contract, or in our day-to-day work. So
exactly. Yeah. Okay. And so who from here uses AI tools or is planning to adapt AI tools within their legal teams?
In our company, not yet, but there is a plan to have AI for the company, not only for legal department. The team still assessing all aspects, and the main concern, as I think all of you agree with me, the data privacy and confidentiality, where we will have all the data. Is it on their cloud basis or in our server? So this is the main concern we need to make sure. Then we will proceed with this.
Adapting.
Yeah.
And I think, speaking for the Netherlands, we do already use some AI tools in our work. Particularly, use it for background research. Use it to prompt and say, "Hey, can you help me with this contract? I need some inspiration. Give me a suggestion for a clause." Yeah. Summarizing documents, I really think it's very helpful, but I agree with you entirely. The biggest drawback still is understanding how the data is used that you plug into the AI tool, and how you can make sure that your own confidentiality and your company's proprietary documents remain proprietary and confidential.
What about you, Musab? Has your team used AI into their day-to-day work?
Well, I don't know about other team members, but for me, I have tried to use it for research as a search engine, and I'm quite I'm not trustworthy of it. I don't find AI to be trustworthy, honestly, because as I have just mentioned before, it just sometimes makes up its own things, its own articles, its own regulations. So I don't find it to be trustworthy.
Yes, it's very difficult to depend entirely on AI, I think. And just because sometimes when you're searching, it can literally give up an answer or make up an article or a clause or something like that. So you do have to be very spectacle when it comes to your researching. But I think it's a good research engine, just because, yes, we do have Google, but Chat can summarize a lot of the research data into like one report or something. So I think that's very beneficial. But yes, I don't think we can depend on at least Chat just 100% up to the day. But there's one thing I'm really liking about the AI and the advanced apps that are coming out, which is such as Decree or LexisNexis or some other matters. I think in Dutch law you guys have something too. It's just a pool where all the cases, the laws, the precedents are all into one platform, one website. It's very easy to research and to get a summarize of the case you want.
So like a library?
Literally, like a search engine for the cases in the legal world. So it's very, very helpful, I believe. It pulls out a specific case you want, gives you a summary about it, the precedent, the judgment, the arbiter comments if there is any. So I think that's very helpful.
Do you use that sort of a library to sort of see if the case that you're working on is similar to that, and then you see what?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes we would use that, for instance, like comparing case to case, but sometimes you need a specific judgment to know, okay, this is how it's going to be applied in the legal world. If my case is to go into court, what is the most likely judgment? Because if there is a previous precedent around it, then I know the likelihood of how it's going to turn out.
Okay, that's interesting. So when it comes to, all I'm hearing right now is that AI is very delusional, and you can't you can't rely on it 100%. So would you say that if you had junior employees, would you allow them to use AI as a tool of reference or dependency to get answers? Or do you think that you would sort of limit it for them?
I think that's actually a very good question. And I don't think it's only a legal question. I think it's also, for instance, HR. How can you check if your junior employees are actually delivering good work if they're using AI to generate all of the answers? Because it can look very professional. Like you can get an email that's drafted quite cleverly and you think, oh, this person's really got it. And then you walk up to them and then you're like, and they'll just blank out in front of you and you're like, oh, okay. So how do you also assess someone who's your junior employee and who's trying to learn? So I think with AI, it really is the data that comes out of it is as good as the person who can analyze it and can work with it. So I think part of the job as well for us as more senior counsel is to teach them how to work with AI and to teach them how to fact check what AI is telling them and not take everything for granted, and also maybe to prompt correctly so you get the sort of answer you want to get out of the system.
Okay. So maybe when we're talking about regulations, we could perhaps say that, or maybe we could suggest, when it comes to AI regulations in Oman, we can say one of the terms should be provide training for the juniors prior to them using it on a professional basis.
I think it could be something that's done for everyone now that AI is coming. I'm not just going to need to train my juniors. I'm going to need to train my seniors just as much,
Especially the seniors, maybe.
I think everybody needs to know how the AI world is working and how to best utilize it and use the positivities and just work around the negativities, I think I agree with Iris. It's not that you can limit a junior from using AI. They can definitely use it. I think it can be helpful at some point. But you'll be able to tell if it's an AI generated work or not, because you could have a simple conversation with them and you realize, okay, there's a gap right here. So
and maybe use a disclaimer: this work was generated by AI, or was made with use of AI. But most people might not be comfortable saying that because then they're worried it might reflect badly on them. But I think where we live now in this day and age, if you're not using AI, you might be missing the boat at some point because everyone is using it.
Exactly.
So a sort of a basic level of AI literacy is going to be required in anyone's job, just to make sure they can do their job correctly.
I agree.
That's true. And so when it comes to, again, with AI and its delusional personality, I would say, how do you think how would we hold someone, or who I would say would be held responsible or liable for any mistakes of a product that was produced using AI? So do you blame the person who has written the piece of document, or would you blame the creators of AI or the tool, or who do we blame? Because it's confusing. You don't know who is going to be held liable, because at the end of the day,
Actually,
AI.
this is one of the gaps for AI.
Exactly.
Accountability. Who will be responsible in case AI make mistakes, or in case, even for IB, in case an AI creates something new, who will own that IB? So all of these points, all of these gaps should be arranged under, as we mentioned, under allocated regulations for AI. This either in one unified regulation, or for each specific area. For example, liability, data privacy they should regulate this topic in detail. So it should has its own regulations and link it with AI. Accountability, I think, should be one of the top priority for anyone that using AI.
Yes, because the case right now, what courts almost universally do is that if there is something that is generated by AI, so if there is any copyright for it, either a picture or text, it does not belong to the one who put the prompt, not to the user.
Really?
Yes, I have read legal precedents, and it does not belong to that user.
So who does it belong to?
The AI?
No one, not even the AI, because the AI does not have a personality.
No, it's
Yeah.
no
The
legal
AI is not.
entity.
Yes,
not
it does
illegal.
not. It does not have
Exactly.
any legal
Oh,
entity.
wow,
Yes,
that's so
and it cannot be credited to the one who put the prompt. So this is something that has to be regulated eventually.
Yes,
I
definitely.
agree, totally.
And it would be very interesting to see if AI does become a legal entity in itself.
Yeah.
And does that then own the copyright to all this data that is generated? And then the question is the creator of the AI the one who ultimately holds all that? Because that's quite a valuable proposition as well then for that company. Or is it, something else entirely?
I think that's why a lot of people, when they discuss AI, they say that AI is actually very dangerous, because we're basically going into unknown territories. We don't know what's going to happen in the future and so on. Yeah, we should basically hope for the best. So if let's say all of you were asked, what sort of regulations would you put the do's and don'ts of AI usage? What would you recommend? What would you not recommend?
Well, I have actually written a paper about this during my studies, and I have just made up my own thing. I think I have read it also somewhere. Is that we give the legal entity, we give an AI legal entity similar to LLCs, for example.
Right.
So we make the AI itself an entity, and we make the one who puts the prompt has the liability of like a director or something, or a board member or something like that. So this is one of the solutions that is being discussed, that is currently being discussed, is that we give the AI an entity, a legal entity, and then we make the company that is developing the AI and the one that is putting the prompts as equivalents for directors or board members or whatever.
That's
interesting.
That's very interesting, actually. Yeah,
But I think it will bring us up to the question of how much can I hold an AI to be accountable or responsible when I know AI can hallucinate and cannot give you a direct answer. And this brings us to the topic we were discussing earlier about, if I ask an AI to give me an advice and I depend on it, can I enforce it now that AI is a legal entity? Can I do it under tort law? Would there be a duty of care? Did he breach that duty of care? How much can I actually depend on AI for such advice?
And how would you even get compensated for any losses you might have suffered?
Exactly.
If the AI is a legal entity and, for instance, it generates revenue from its IP, then it could have you could have something to enforce against. But if it has no assets, it has no money, how do you actually claim compensation from an AI?
Exactly.
I think that's also a very difficult question.
Yeah, imagine asking for a prescription from AI and the prescription leads to death or a severe disease or something like that. Who's going to be held responsible for it? Is it going to be AI because now it's a legal entity? Can I actually ask for compensation? How far is it going to go? So I think those are very important discussions to be had in the legal world and to regulate how this is all going to work.
So maybe I just thought of this right now. So maybe, for example, you were talking about prescriptions. So do you think that, let's say, the health sector should have its own AI? So they would build it and they would train it and program it and so on. So then if anything were to go wrong, then they would be held liable instead of, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but...
and then again, for the legal sector, let's say...
Same.
Yeah.
I think that could be one way to do it. What I would say is just there needs to be regulations on the AI itself and how we're dealing with the AI. Yeah. Just because at the end of the day, putting 100% of your dependence on an AI-generated data when we know the risks, and we have just talked about how much it can hallucinate, can make up clauses, can make up articles, can make up prescriptions at one point. Yeah. So if it just learns on the data, yet it still has a lot of mistakes, and I'm telling people, you know what, you can depend on it because I'll hold X, Y, and Z liable, the doctors or the professors. It's just, I don't know. It seems like, you know,
I think
what doctor would want to be liable for such? What lawyer would want to be held liable for such?
It's pretty much the same when you're actually physically going to visit a doctor, and then because it's happened, you know, you get what's the word? So they give you the wrong prescription basically, and then you know maybe you get a tummy ache or you're sick, or so then again who's
but then again
held liable?
Such cases you would see there is a lot of regulations on the doctor, so the physical assessment. For instance, you had indications of X, Y, and Z, and hence, so to a professional body of doctors, it would be like, actually, that was a sound advice. Yeah. But who can say that to chat? Can I bring a professional body of doctors and be like, yeah, chat's ID was actually a good one?
Yeah, I think that what we need to look out for as well is that you give everything over to AI. I think certain subjects like human health, when a life is at stake, you also have examples of people asking mental health advice from AI. I think there you have to be quite careful and take a step back and think, is this really where we want to go? Because then you lose that kind of human connection, which AI will never have, that empathy, the sort of the social awareness. And I think also as companies, while there's no like legal framework for this externally from the governments, from international bodies, I think as a company, we need to really try to protect our people as well and say, look, AI is there, it's beautiful, it can do wonderful things, it can be a great tool to make your work more efficient, it can help you be creative in what you do, but you have to always take it with a grain of salt and be a bit careful when you are using it, because you can't let someone's life depend on it in the case of a doctor's note or a doctor's prescription. And you also have to wonder whether you want to trust the entire running of a company to AI if everyone is using it.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think some sectors just should not
it needs to have AI. A lot of strict regulations depending on the type of sector we're in. Just because if we don't have such regulations or rules, it can lead to, you know.
I think there needs to be a limit as to how much you can depend on AI. And then also at the end of the day, you know, it's basically used at your own risk, and no one's going to be held liable. It's you and yourself, basically.
But again, if you are decide to rely on AI, then aside of having regulations and laws arranging all the aspects of using AI, you should also have a clear contract with the AI providers. So all these aspects should be arranged under that contract. So if the purpose of this contract with AI provider, whether for legal or other sectors, to rely on the provided information or data from the AI generator, then this should be covered and arranged under that contract. Even the jurisdiction, under which jurisdiction we can sue this AI provider, this also should be arranged, because this will depend which regulation we should rely on it.
At least clear terms and conditions should be there. on how we could use the AI and to what limit can we use it, to what limit can we depend on it. And it's going to be very important to, not just from our perspective, but from the AI perspective, what liability am I going to have? To what extent? Am I going to be liable to the whole world? You know, to every single advice, to every single information I've given? Because the AI is just depending on data, and it could be that it has wrong data, it's being fed wrong data, and such as giving wrong information. So how much can I hold it liable?
Yeah, you really can't. You just raised a very interesting point. You said in regards to raising a case against the AI provider and such. How would that work? So if, let's say, we were in Oman and the AI provider is from another country, does anything related to the jurisdiction of both countries come into play? Does it clash in any way?
I think it shouldn't be any conflict because, as I mentioned, we should arrange this during contracting stage. So, which jurisdiction and which laws and regulations should govern this relationship?
Or the terms.
And at least from the EU perspective, if that's not in the contract, we would look at conflict of law provisions, and we would look at various regulations to say, okay, which country would then have jurisdiction, which has the most close, which is the domicile basically of the AI provider, and also which law would apply here, which has the most close connection with the contract, with the services to be provided, etc. So that can actually lead to quite some confusing situations if you don't regulate it properly, like you said.
Okay, that's very interesting. You know, because sometimes it's very hard to tell how things work, especially if you're dealing with two separate countries, and then you're thinking, do you apply the law locally, or does the law from the other company apply to us, or so on? So it's quite interesting, I would say.
This is why in all our contracts, governing law is just very essential. We clarify it from step one.
What do you guys think, what does responsible AI mean in your legal context, and who should actually define it?
I think it's a job for various people in the company. It's not just the legal department deciding that. I think IT experts need to look at it, cybersecurity experts. I think management has to take a position as well, maybe compliance. I think it's not something you can just define by yourself.
I think, it's a group work. As you were saying, so if we as a company initiate such a program, for the legal department or such a department, it will be our data that is being fed. And so we know how it's going to generate information, where we know about the procedure and the cycle of it. So I think that's one way if we collectively work on something concrete.
Teamwork.
And maybe even an international collaboration as well. Having viewpoints from different countries, different jurisdictions to see how we could make things work globally as well, and not just for maybe the Netherlands or just for Oman or another country.
Definitely.
On a global level.
Yeah,
that's very true. So how do you see AI transforming legal work in the next 3 years, and what scares you all about that?
I think Musab has a lot of...
No, I don't think AI would reach such a stage that will replace lawyers. I think AI would just reach a stage where it would be just used as a search engine, and that's it. We always use the phrase Google it. Now it will just be use AI, and that's it. It will not replace anything. That's my opinion. I don't know.
Do you think it could replace junior employees?
Because you need juniors, so you can have seniors later on.
That's true. And you can't be working forever.
And I think no matter how AI is going to be advanced, the human aspect, the way we think, the details we know, the facts we know is just very different when you're giving a legal advice. So even if you go on chat and upload a case scenario, it will just give you a very standardized answer probably. But when you have real people who have had experience, who've worked the case, the human, the teamwork that goes into it, I think that's something AI can never replace. So no, I don't think AI is ever going to replace our legal work or the legal field.
AI will always need a human to monitor it.
Exactly, I think it can be used together, but not.
We can use it to support, just not to replace a human.
I totally agree. I mean, I wouldn't want to see an AI lawyer representing me in court one day.
Actually, it's happened, I think.
I've seen that.
Really?
I've seen that.
Yeah. Arabot, I believe in it.
But I think it was more of, so it was fed the data by an actual lawyer.
Yeah.
But then the judge said, no, this is unacceptable.
No, I think it's going to change our work dramatically, how we work. But it's not going to change the strategic thinking. We have to do the personal contact we have, like the meetings, the face-to-face. That's not going to change.
Yeah.
What I hope it will do is to make the very repetitive, non-strategic tasks simpler.
Exactly,
so at some point you can just say, this is my NDA template. I'm going to have, this is the company website. Put the company details in. Maybe already suggest some information in the preamble about what this company is, what it does. But that's public information. It can work with that. And then you get like a draft that you would maybe get from a junior lawyer. So in that sense, it might change the work and sort of the expertise we're expecting from junior lawyers, because they have to step up instantly, because the very basic stuff you can ask an AI to do. But you want the junior lawyer to bring that bit extra, right?
Yeah,
you want them to actually already be able to interpret and do more high-level work than they would maybe have been expected to do 10, 20 years ago. So that's a challenge for younger lawyers, I think. But it's also an opportunity for them. They can do work that has more impact than maybe doing due diligence reports in a basement somewhere with a lot of boxes and folders and reading through word for word. An AI can do that now, but they can do the interpretation of what the AI has done. So I think, it's going to change things, but I'm quite excited for it, actually.
Yeah, me too. I think I'm looking at it in a positive way, and I think it's going to enhance our work, support our work, make it a lot more efficient and professional instead of just taking over.
Before we wrap up, I did have one more question. So do you think that when you're interacting with a client, do you feel that your emotional intelligence plays a role when it comes to dealing with your clients and building that relationship and connection?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So definitely, I think AI cannot replace
that aspect.
That part. Yeah, because if I'm dealing with a lawyer, I would want to know that lawyer understands what I'm going through and the feelings and emotions that are going through my mind, and so I think you guys are safe
for now, at least.
It's just going to enhance your skills and so on.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us today. I think we had a very nice and interesting discussion. I definitely learned a lot, and always nice to have this conversation.
Thank you so much for having us. This was great.
Thank you. We enjoyed this discussion.
Thank you so much.